it at a later time. So I am going to just stop sharing the screen for now. Excellent. So, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today for another one of our calls in our call series. These calls were really developed to bring Boathouse leadership together through these current times. My name is Heather Alschuler. For those of you who I haven't spoken to before, I am the Strategic Initiatives Director at the George Pocock Rowing Foundation. In case anyone on this call doesn't know what the GPRF does, we are an organization that is committed to help forever change the way youth find, start, and stay rowing. We run various programs, including a nationwide school program called ERGED that introduces thousands of students to the sport of rowing each year. We also help youth overcome barriers to participation in sport, such as cost. And we have a partner network of boathouses that are all working together to better the sport through being more intentional, inclusive, and innovative. In that spirit of bringing boathouses together, the GPRF felt like there was a need for a space where the rowing community could unite and discuss the situation we have all found ourselves in at this time, hence these boathouse leadership calls. On today's call, we are going to continue to grow upon the conversation we started a few weeks ago during our last community call about getting back onto the water and what sort of new aspects of safety need to be considered in our current world situation. We are joined today by the very qualified Rachel Lemieux, who is a head coach, U.S. rowing referee, FISA Empire, and many other credentials, including safety committee chair of U.S. Rowing. She will be highlighting some of the areas of safety to consider when going back to rowing. We will also be breaking into smaller breakout rooms to allow some additional discussion between clubs so we can continue to learn and share with each other. A few caveats before we get started. Our hope at the GPRF is that all clubs are able to open and find a balance between operations and safety. However, by no means is the conversation today supposed to replace any government guidance or recommendations surrounding safety and social distancing. We hope that this discussion will lead to additional support about how to follow such guidance in the setting unique to a boathouse. No one has all the answers as to what the perfect balance is between social responsibility, government mandates, and maintaining organizational health, sustainability, and for some, really survival as we face this unprecedented situation. But today, our hope is to continue to share ideas, ask questions, and create a sense of community, and really reinforce the idea that we are not in this on our own. We are all part of a strong and healthy rowing community, and we have never been so much together in the same boat, pun intended, and situation before. And as a reminder, as we all know, no one knows all of the answers or solutions to any of this. There is no instruction book. And, we are most likely all emotionally charged and uneasy with what's happening, but please keep this place free of judgment of what others are doing if you don't agree with their response. Also, just some housekeeping items before we finally dive in. Please keep yourself on mute and utilize that chat function during the larger group discussion. We would love to hear from each of you, and I see a lot of great intros going on right now. Please keep continuing with those. Also, during the smaller breakout sessions, that there hopefully will be lots of space for commentary and discussion. But during the larger group discussion, please ask questions, make comments, and by using that chat function as we go. I will be monitoring that, and will help facilitate some of those questions and comments. So with that said, we're going to kick things off with a poll question to see where everyone is with getting back on the water. So hopefully you will see a question in front of you about if your club has started to allow rowing, and if so, in what capacity. So if you could please just click on sort of where your club is to just to get a gauge of where the group is. Excellent. Keep those responses coming in. Keep it open for about 30 more seconds. Excellent. So hopefully you can see, can everyone see the results on their, give me a head nod or shake? No. Okay, let me see. I can, okay, great. Now can you see it? Oh, not yet. Now can you see it? Excellent. Technology, right? All right, so as you can see, the majority of the clubs are still fully closed at this point. And I know we're dealing with a lot of different situations in different states. And then there is quite a large percentage that has some single and private boat usage going on. So just sort of out of gives you a perspective. Nobody is fully back up and running yet. All right, great. I'm going to stop sharing this. And I'm actually going to ask one more question, maybe. This question is, what are you most concerned about with returning to the water? So what are your hesitations? So, you know, in these early stages, many of you haven't done any rowing yet, but many are just in the very early stages. So what are your concerns at this point? Excellent. So keep those responses coming in. Keep this poll open for just a few more seconds. If you haven't got your response in, go ahead and quickly click it before I end it and share it. I know it's hard to pick just one. Lots of concerns. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it. And here are the results from that. So as you can see, the majority of you are concerned about the safety and health of the members, coaches, and community. There is certainly, I'm sure there's many are concerned, have some concern in all of these areas, but program capacity, both in terms of members returning and also the lack of capacity of bringing in as many members as hope to return. You know, it's two sides of a coin here. It's an interesting situation. So great. Well, with that in mind, we are very lucky today to be joined by Rachel Lemieux. She is extremely qualified to help kick off this discussion that we're going to have. She's not only a head coach of Martha's Moms, like I mentioned, she is a U.S. rowing referee, FISA umpire. She's the chair of U.S. Rowing Safety Committee, and also she is in charge or is a trials coordinator for this Olympic cycle. So she gets five years in this cycle, lucky her, and supervising referees who work with the national team trial selection process. And if that's just not enough, she last year graduated with sports and coaching leadership from Drexel University and is a level 3 US rowing coach. And she actually has a professional career beyond that rowing as a partner in the BDO USA. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. And Rachel, thank you so much for your time today.
There we go. Give me just a second, guys. Thanks very much. Matt Loeb is actually on the presentation today as well, and he was my co-presenter for this presentation when we did it for US Rowing. So I have asked Matt to step in and do the first part of the presentation, since that's what he did at US Rowing. So Heather, hopefully you don't mind. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got multiple screens open here, so I'm hoping I can get it right the first time. And then Matt, just let me know when you want me to switch to slides, switch the slides. So give me 1 second here. Okay. Can you guys see that yet? Nope. Got to hit the word share.
Perfect. It worked. Great. Thank you, Matt, for joining as well.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, so you can see that. Can everybody see the slideshow? Okay, good. Thanks for the shaking heads. So again, just before I turn it over to Matt, today's agenda, again, we'll do speaker introductions, a fresh look, 3 zones of safety, return to rowing, getting back on the water, and then some resources that Matt and I put together. And then I know that we're going to break out into rooms, and Heather will facilitate that. But if there's any Q&A that needs to happen with us on the line, I know Matt has to jump off in about 17 minutes. So with that, great introduction, but with Matt, he's the executive director of Three Rivers Rowing. He's been around for a very long period of time and very, very experienced in the safety aspect of how we return to rowing. So Matt, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and just jump right into your first slide. There we go.
Great. Thanks, Rachel, and good afternoon, everybody. Again, as Rachel said, this was a presentation we went through for US Rowing a couple weeks ago, and we really just tried to break it down into make safety and the protocols of coming back to the boathouse, break it down into 3 kind of manageable zones. So we started off with the boathouse, the boatyard, and the water. We can start to click through. I'll try to be as concise as possible to be mindful of everybody's time. But kind of using the downtime of the COVID pandemic to really take a look into the safety policies and protocols of our club. This is a great time to kind of dive into them. Maybe they haven't been updated in a while. Maybe there's things that we've wanted to do recently that we now have the time to do, and ways to make safety more engaging as we return to the boathouse. So using this time to kind of look at the safe sport policy, look at your club's safety handbook, employee handbook, and insurance policies. Are they up to date? Do they have everything that needs to be covered now? With so much coming out from the insurance standpoint about what's covered in a virus pandemic type of situation, just making sure that if we don't have the answers, that we're asking the right questions, because so much is changing so quickly. It's important to be on top of it as much as possible. Increasing the signage and accessibility of your boathouse. And I know the past survey, if anybody has the opportunity to kind of click on that, is an excellent resource. It's posted on the US Rowing website of just being able to walk through your boathouse and identify potential gaps, but also reinforce a lot of the good things that a lot of the boathouses already have in place. And it's a really great tool that I recommend everybody kind of take advantage of.
Matt, before you move on, Matt, I just wanted to add about the past survey is that it's been on the website for quite a while. It is actually a tool. It is not something that at the end, when you say, give me my report, that it will actually do that anymore. However, you can download the actual document, and it really is a great resource to be able to walk through your boathouse and from every aspect of putting on a rowing program. So just want to make that clear that if you click give me my report, it won't do that.
Yeah, it's a great point, Rachel. Thanks for that. But it is, like you said, walking through the boathouse, it really gets you thinking about a lot of things, and really puts you in the right safety mindset as we approach reopening. And again, like housekeeping stuff such as vehicles, paperwork, are your launches all up to date and registered? They probably haven't been touched in a while. Jumping down to the next slide, I think is the boatyard. Using this opportunity to kind of clear out some of the clutter from the boathouse. and identify areas of enhancement and improvement, like where is the safety equipment located? What do we really need here now? Is it in a easily accessible standpoint? Are the life jackets, if they're inflatable, are the cartridges up to date? Or if they're the pullover, do all the buckles and snaps work? Really taking the time that we have here to make sure that we are 100% safety ready as we come back in. The apron and the docks, definitely areas to walk through now, especially with the different social distancing guideline recommendations coming out from the CDC and US Rowing and other bodies as they relate to interacting with space and athletics, and making sure that the cleaning stations are back up to speed and have all the supplies that they need. One of the things that we found here in Pittsburgh is making sure that we have at least 6 weeks supply of cleaning inventory, just because of the back orders on so many of the popular cleaning products that are out there. So taking the time to do this inventory and place those orders now, so that once we do open, we don't have to close back up because we're out of bleach or out of cleaning products and whatnot. So understanding what resource limitations might be in your region is incredibly beneficial exercise to go through right now. Then kind of just jumping onto the water, understanding what the rescue scenarios are, review, revise, and enhancing your safety protocols. One of the things that we've done locally is our safety handbook is a black and white text handbook, and it's about 40 pages long, very thorough. We've kind of tackled making it a more engaging handbook, either through PowerPoint modules or small video clips. And one of the things which I'll get down to in the course maps is making an interactive course map using some of the resources that are available to us. One of those tools that I've found during this shutdown that's been very helpful is Google Earth Pro, and I'm not sure if anybody's had a chance to use that for course maps in the past, but it's a free program you can download, and you can create paths, which you're then able to fly over. So we're on a river. We have over 10,000 meters of rowing on a river with lots of bridges, and this enables us to have a 3D flyover of our river for our coaches, our coxswains, and our scullers, and it really brings the river into the living room so that everybody can be that much more prepared and that much more safe when we are able to get back out onto the water. And then again, just some other housekeeping stuff, and I apologize if I'm going so quickly here, but want to try to get it all in. Making those connections with your local marine officials, making sure your cell phone and radio usage are out there. This week is actually National Safe Boating Week, so it's a good week to kind of connect with those officials that are out there on the water right now and really putting a big push for safety. So this is a really great window to introduce yourself, especially if you're going to be getting back on the water soon, and just making the connections and giving them the heads up that you're going to be there. So definitely recommend reaching out. And if you have the opportunity to get safe boating certification, every state and municipality might be a little bit different as to what their requirements are, but it doesn't hurt to have this training by all coaches that'll be operating safety launches when you do return out there. Rachel, did you
Matt, we just had one question. Oh, it was answered. Google Earth Pro is the software, the program that you used.
Yeah.
Right now, Matt, I don't know if this slide had activity on it. Unfortunately, it didn't cross over when I uploaded it.
Yeah, I mean, if I can share my screen, I can give you a quick flyover if that's something we have time for,
Yeah.
Heather. If something you guys
Is that
want
something
to
you can do, Heather? Yeah, perfect. Go ahead, Matt.
All right, let me just bear with me for 1 second while
I need to stop sharing, so hang on. I'm going to stop sharing.
Let's see here.
There we go.
Okay. Can everybody see the Google Earth, like a planet Earth right now? Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I'll just give you a quick forgive the pun, crash course. This is our Head of the Ohio race course, but it'll give you an idea of what it looks like. So basically, I just built a path in Google Earth, which is the green line. So this is just going to be the racing course itself. And then this button enables you to do a 3D flyover. So you'll see some of the, I'm sorry. Oh, let me get the 3D buildings on. All right. So this will give you a flyover. And like I said, we have about 11 bridges on our river. So this has been a great tool and resource for us and We have a much more detailed practice map about traffic patterns, which arches go which way, and the coaches and coxswains that have gone through this training so far have been really receptive to it and have really considered it a great resource. So I'll try to speed it up a little bit more so see what it looks like through the bridges. But I found this to be an incredibly helpful resource, and I've been building it out to the point where you got safe takeout zones, hazards on all three of our rivers, and it's going to be a great long-term resource. So I highly recommend it, especially if you're on a river with a lot of area to cover. I also should warn you, it's a little bit of a rabbit hole. You can find yourself making a lot of cool little adjustments and playing around with it a bit, but it's been a great enhancement to our safety protocols that we've been able to find during this shutdown. And that's that. So I don't know if we get back to the PowerPoint.
Yep, hang on, give me a second, getting there.
I'll just...
All right, hopefully you guys can all see that. Or hang on, how about that? Always helpful when you get it right. Okay, so I see a question came in. Heather, do you want to go ahead and ask that question real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you suggest who to reach out to regarding our presence on the water beyond the Coast Guard and perhaps local marinas?
Yeah, if you
Also,
have like a river rescue unit, like the police, the fire department, we have the Fish and Boat Commission here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that are also a on-water law enforcement agency. A lot of times if there's not a Coast Guard present, there's a Coast Guard auxiliary or some sort of group of that nature. And just introducing yourself goes a long way. There's so much that's a little bit abstract about our sport that I've found that when you just introduce, hey, I'm the rowing club, and they're like, oh yeah, we've always had questions about this, that, or the other thing. It becomes a very engaging conversation and increases the understanding of what all the on-water users, and that goes a very long way.
Also, Matt, any recommendations of where to order those cleaning supplies and disinfecting supplies?
Yeah, I mean,
we've had success
with uline.com has been a big source of bulk cleaning supplies for us. But then, you know, they run out. So HD Supply is another website our facility manager just found, and they seem to be have a shorter window on some things, but it's really just kind of working even with your local cleaning supply companies. There's a lot of small businesses that do that. Any cleaning maintenance supply will have, you can set yourself up as a vendor or contractor with, and they can give you their own timelines. And it's really just knowing that there's going to be a delay and working within those order windows just so we never run out of that.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Matt, a lot. And yeah, folks, that was pretty quick, but it really did hit the basics. And to the extent that Matt is unable to stay beyond his 3 o'clock time frame or 12 o'clock here in the Pacific Northwest, I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. And Matt, that was brilliant stepping in at 30 seconds to go. So really appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, so continuing to share. So I'm going to step in and talk about a safe return to rowing. And I know that a lot of us have been getting back out on the water in one form or another. So it was good to see that poll very early on in the presentation. So let's talk about this a little bit. Typical reopening plans, they pretty much fall into buckets, either from just reopening for private boat owners or reopening for club-owned equipment only, and with a sign-in and with various things. So this is basically some best practices that I found as we were reviewing the various reopening plans over the last couple of weeks. So again, and this one is from Lake Washington Rowing Club, where we have a 2-story building. Bottom portion of it is all boat bays and the workshop, and it's got 1 bathroom down there. And then the upstairs are the men's and women's locker rooms, an area set aside for Holy Names Academy, plus our main workout facility and coaches' offices. And basically, when we were doing our reopening policy, we said that there would be 0 access to locker rooms and no access to the gyms or the offices or anything. So basically, you could only come into the boat bays for this phase 1 opening. Strict rules, only 2 people per bay at a time. So you queue up outside. There are some pictures on Facebook this weekend of our reopening where we were queued up outside 6 feet apart. You had to be on time because, again, we only had rowing windows between 5 and 9 a.m. and we're only open like 3 days a week. So everybody has to wear a mask unless, whoa, sorry, my mouse is very sensitive. Okay, so you have to wear a mask unless you're rowing, and then you have to wait to enter the boat bay until someone has left. Rowing limited only to singles and doubles, or pairs, and you can only go out in a double or pair if you are in the same household. So either a family member or a roommate or whatever. That's the only reason you would be allowed to go out in a double or a pair. You have to make your boat reservations in advance, and depending upon circumstances, only rowers with private equipment. So our initial phase 1 reopening was private equipment. And then I believe that we have started opening it up, or will be opening it up soon for club equipment. And then no novices at all, or special times, or we have special times for novices. We are not there yet, others are. And we don't even have coaches on the water right now. So even if you're a club coach, and I think they're starting to look at ways to put a safety launch on the water. They've been sending around asking if they'd be willing to come and sit and be a safety launch during this 5 to 9 a.m. time period. And one of the other specific things we stated was this was not a time for experienced rowers who have never sculled to come down and figure out if they could scull. Not a good time for that. Again, no coach sessions, no programs at all. So Martha's mom's still not out on the water because we are a program. Holy Names Academy, of course, they're out of school right now, so they wouldn't be at the boathouse anyways. But when your club's within a club, that they basically said no programs. Very strict hygiene rules. You have to wash your hands before and after touching oars or any basic type of equipment. We have put out fresh, during the rowing sessions, which, by the way, we are not open 7 days a week. We are only open 4, I believe. And each day there is a fresh Clorox, bleaching oar handle cleaner. And somebody on one of the last webinars we did said, hey, that, Clorox only lasts, a very short period of time. Well, that's true if you just have it in high concentration without it being diluted. If it's diluted and covered for a period of time, then in fact that it will continue to be a cleaning solution. But if you leave a lid off for any period of time, then yes, that stuff evaporates out. You have to use the provided disinfectant. This one, I've seen this run the gamut as well, from bringing your own stuff to using what the club is providing. And at Lake Washington Rowing Club, they are using only what is provided. Because they, however they did it, the club management was able to secure a lot of disinfecting and cleaning supplies ahead of time. And so those sit at the opening to the boathouse, they sit at the exit to the boathouse. So again, you have to use what the club has provided because they believe that what they went out and found is actual disinfectant and would qualify as such. And then again, the number of days open to row. There are clubs that I have seen that never closed, which we can all say what we want to about that. Never closed and whatever. And then there are some that open very early to private members only, just because maybe the majority of the club was private members. So they've been open 7 days a week. What I see around the Pacific Northwest is it runs the gamut, right? So from limited days per week to all days per week, or quote back to normal in terms of opening the boathouse, but limited hours and limited number of rowers at a time. And then some have boathouse attendants on site that that they are paying, or they're volunteers. They have very special duties, right? They come in, they open it and close the boathouse. They actually monitor social distancing. So when I stopped by the boathouse on Sunday and it was not open, there's another reason for me to go there. I looked and they had actually gone out. If any of you are familiar with Lake Washington Rowing Club, there's a parking lot that extends out, a paid parking lot there. And they had actually marked with tape the 6 feet for the queuing line to go in. And they had marked where each shell, if you were bringing it out and putting it on stretchers, could be. They actually marked where the stretchers needed to be And then within the boathouse, they also marked where you could stand within the boathouse. So again, they took all of these steps to ensure social distancing. And then the monitor is also the keeper of the reservations. We have an online reservation system that people can use. We use it for volunteering, for RSVPing to any kind of social activity at the club and that type of thing. So right now, it is being used full time just for reserving boats. And then the monitor cannot help you carry boats. So if you are incapable of carrying boats and oars down by yourself, then you are not allowed to reserve a boat. Now, people are getting around that by making sure that their buddies sign up for exactly the same time. I have not heard whether they're actually allowing that or not, because again, that's we have a little trouble with social distancing there. But I think they are allowing friends to help friends, essentially, but the monitor cannot do that. And then all services have to be cleaned before you leave for the day. The monitor goes around and wipes down all doorknobs, and that includes like the push button where the boat bay doors are open and closed. Anything like that, the monitor is responsible for cleaning. And then the rowers are responsible for disinfecting the equipment that they use. You cannot show to row. These are rowers' responsibilities, right? So you have to reserve. If you do not reserve, you will be turned away. And even though the club has its own supply of lights and towels and that type of thing, during phase one, because they don't want to have a monitor cleaning each individual thing like that in between rows. They're basically stating you have to bring your own lights and you have to bring your own towels to wipe the boats down. And usually the boat wiping down is only going to happen when you're the last rower, right, of the day that's going to use that piece of equipment. Just something that has to happen there. And then can't store any personal items. So again, we have cubbies that people would normally come in when they're rowing and they could stash, their bag of clothes, or they could stash their keys or whatever. We're not allowing anyone to stash anything in the boathouse, again, because when you think about it, I don't know what it's like for those of you not in the Pacific Northwest, but when you go to a grocery store, right, they have one-way aisles and they have plexiglass up, and you can't bring your own grocery bags in because you can, but you have to bag your own groceries. So if you bring in your own bags, they won't let anybody touch them other than you. And so that's really how how the club is trying to ensure safety. Is we don't want anybody's personal stuff, right, touching too much of anything that we can't immediately disinfect. And so you don't want to bring a lot, because some of our parking area may or may not be very safe. So kind of store at your own risk, whatever you want in your car. Again, wash hands, wash hands, wash hands. And then wearing masks. Pictures on Facebook are great because we saw people queued up wearing their masks. Disinfect everything. And then for yourself, bring your own sanitizer, bring your own sponges. It says club supplies. Again, this runs the gamut, where Lake Washington is supplying disinfecting materials, but while you're in the boat and before you allow someone else to come into that same boat, you have to disinfect everything. So you got to carry your own stuff in the boat. And then other clubs we don't have anything, we don't have access to anything. You got to bring your own stuff down and prove that you actually have it. Getting boats onto the water, again, running the gamut. Limited number of boats per dock or per bay. So in order to keep that 6 to 12 feet social distancing, maybe only 2 people per boat bay at a time. Pretty important to do that. 30-minute launch windows. So I've seen this. Some have 15-minute launch windows, some 30-minute launch windows. So you show up, if you've signed up at 5 a.m., you need to be there at like 4:45 in the morning. And then you have to be in the boathouse, grabbing your boat at 5 a.m. And everybody else is queued up outside, so that we figure that we can get about 30 people in the 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. time frame that they're allowing people to row. That's it doesn't allow a lot of the club members to get out, but it does allow some people to get You can't crowd the ramp or the dock, so it's you put your oars on the dock, you come up, you get your boat, you take your boat down to the dock, you launch, and you get away, right? And a dock that could normally handle, say, 3 to 4 singles per side is only going to be allowed to have 2 singles per side. And initially, obviously, that's all launching. And then if people choose to stay out longer, there's no limitation on how long they can stay out. Other clubs have said you can go out for 45 minutes and you got to come back. All of that is to try to allow, you know, as many rowers as possible who want to go out to have that opportunity. Again, you have to disinfect everything. Can't say that enough. And then you can only have 1 person on the ramp at a time. So, which is pretty standard, right? Ramps are not very big. But here you cannot even be waiting at the bottom of the ramp to walk up as 1 person goes down. So 1 person walks down, gets to the edge of the dock before the other person can start to walk up. And the queuing at the top is also spaced out significantly. These are just some of the resources that we put together. So US Rowing, I don't know how many of you have actually been out on their website, but on their website, they have a bunch of resources. In particular, they have a timeline and a phased approach for how you can make a safe return to rowing. And some of those materials came from FISA or World Rowing, and that's how World Rowing is basically saying primarily for the national teams to kind of come back, but they mean it for everyone. And it doesn't matter whether you're a national team rower or it's your 2nd year rowing, right? It's a really good resource to have. Safe Sport is also a very good resource. I always push Safe Sport, even though it's a little different bent, but they have some good resources as well. Make sure you're doing CPR training. So while that's not COVID-19 related, again, these are all just best practices. And then one of the things we like to talk about is mental health first aid. So this is something that a lot of clubs are starting about thinking, to add in. How can we as coaches deal with different types of potential issues that may be out there? And so one of the things that we'll be looking at in the future, and is also happening across the country, is also adding in a requirement to get some mental health first aid. Past survey, again, want to make sure you understand that while that survey is available, and it is a fantastic checklist for folks to go through, but again, it runs the gamut from before you get to the boathouse to after you leave the boathouse, and how you get from the boathouse to a regatta. So it covers vehicles and all of that. But again, it's not the survey from 5 to 7 years ago where when you pushed it, you would get a report back saying you have a grade A or you have a grade F, depending upon how you answered the survey. Safe boating certification, make sure your coaches or whoever else, if your state requires you to be licensed, make sure that licensure is in place before you actually allow a coach or a launch driver to go out on the water. And even if you don't have a requirement to be licensed, we believe it's a best practice. Now, if I put my safety hat on for US Rowing, we believe it's a best practice, right, to make sure that folks are certified in boating. And then the wet training. I don't know how many people here, if you're from the Pacific Northwest, you probably are aware of the wet training. It's a partnership with a doctor at University of Washington along with the University of Washington crew. And it is training that is designed for water rescues and water first aid. And it's based on your equipment, your waterway, that type of thing. So when it first started off, it was just, hey, University of Washington, you look at the videos, because you can go out and do W period, E period, T period, and you should come up with a bunch of videos that would show you what's happening. So when you look at the University of Washington, it's really great, but they are a D1 well-funded program. And so they have the best launches and that type of thing. So they're kind of, so that training was there. So then they decided they wanted to increase that training. And so we are trying to get this created so it goes across the country. And so I believe Matt's Boathouse was going to have the organizers out to do wet training specific to their facilities, river, types of launches, all of that. Unfortunately, we all know what happened. We had COVID-19. But again, it's something great. And if you're interested in it, you can contact me and I can put you in place with or put you in touch with the organizers of that. And then Google Earth Pro, I'm glad Matt was on because his slides were interactive and they didn't transfer over. And I had something up on, I was going to try to do the Head of the Lake course, but I'm really glad he was able to do it. And then rules of rowing, please understand the rules of rowing, right? Good resources there for everybody to go through again. So with that, I am going to go ahead and see if there's any questions, or Heather, whether you want to break people up into their chat rooms, kind of how we want to proceed from here.
Yeah, let's open it up for questions. There were a couple questions posed during your talk. One was about the boat reservation software. So there was iCrew that was suggested by a couple people. I'm not sure if anyone else has any other software that they use for boat reservations through this time.
And I keep getting the name of ours wrong. I believe it's MindBody. I'm going to try to see what screen hopefully my screen doesn't come up. The screen I'm trying to bring up. Anyways, I believe ours is called MindBody, and if not, I'll make sure that I send it out to everyone. There's just a link on my website that I click on, and I'm already all registered for it or whatever, so I don't really pay attention to what the name of it is. But it is a good system, and the other thing it does for us is, because we're required to have a number of volunteer hours throughout the year, or we get charged a surcharge at the end, because again, we're a volunteer organization. It keeps track of our volunteer hours.
That's great. Couple more questions coming in. Let's see, any pushback from zero access to bathrooms?
No, we have not had any pushback at all. Now, they are allowing access to the ground floor bathroom. It's a single bathroom. It's easy enough to go in because we're saying wash your hands, right? It's the only place. And that's another reason why you space out the number of people that can be there at any given time, right? Because you can't have 100 people all standing in line to use the one sink that's available to wash your hands. So, so yeah, no, we have not had any pushback, and I think it's because the timing and the numbers and how they're running it, it has been working very well.
Has there been any club criteria set for the return of novice rowers?
Yes, I mean, like I say, that again, this runs the gamut across the country. Some have never closed. Some have reopened in a capacity and are trying to run their programs as normal. So if they're getting ready to do a novice program, then they can do that. But again, most, if not all, of the boathouses that are reopening have limited their reopening to singles and doubles from the same household, right? So if you were getting ready, obviously running a novice suite program isn't going to work, right? Because you can't social distance there, right? But if you decide you want to run a novice sculling program, I mean, I would look at that and kind of go, really is now the right time? Because if a novice flips, if you don't have the right singles form, where their chances are they're not going to flip, and a novice flips, there goes your social distancing if you have to rescue that novice rower. So, and I think we can all agree that there is a higher percentage that a novice will flip a single than an experienced rower. So there's a higher degree of percentage that you would have to actually go and rescue that rower out of the water.
One other question to piggyback on that: are you allowing novices to go out in household doubles if the other person is experienced?
No novice rowing for the current time, period. This is not the time, and unless there is an organized novice program, right? Which there is not, because we don't have coaches on the water. That's the other thing. We don't have coaches, and again, we're trying to see if we can get safety launches here and there, but that's a safety launch, not a coaching session. So yeah, no, it's a problem because we all want to reopen. We're all suffering from a revenue perspective. And how do we generate revenue? We generate revenue by running programs. And some of that is running learn to row programs, right? And it is what it is, and we're not going to be able to do that right off the bat. But if we move into phase 2 and phase 3, then we can start bringing those things. There won't be team rowing until a phase 4. And we don't know when phase 4 will actually happen. If all the scientists are correct that if you open up too early, I'm not talking about rowing, right? If the scientists are correct that as we reopen and as we relax where we can go and how we do it, there's this belief that there will be a surge again, right, in the rowing, which could literally put us all back to square one. So we're taking a very measured and slow approach because we would really like to continue rowing for the rest of the year. And if we can do our small part, then we're going to do it.
We're going to take 2 more questions here. First one being restriction for youth allowed to row. So if they or their parents own a private boat, is that fine on the club
If they're
side?
experienced rowers, age is not an issue, and I haven't seen this throughout the country either. If they are an experienced rower, and what does experience mean? You've passed your flip test. You've proven you can get in it, in and out of a boat. You have shown some proficiency. Then you can go out. And yes, parent-child can go out if they're both experienced rowers.
2 people, final question here. 2 people should be able to carry a single and maintain social distancing. Do you see a problem there?
The only problem that I see is in our situation at Lake Washington Rowing Club, the only thing that I would see that is an issue is if those 2 people, right, are not signed up for the same launch window. If they're not signed up for the same launch window, then you have broken the way that you are, trying to manage how many people per boat bay and the like. So, that you're right in that a single would provide enough social distancing, carrying it on either end. But with all the other protocols in place, everything has to be in order, right, to get it done.
Awesome, wonderful. Thank you so much, Rachel. Oh, final thing, will we be able to share these slides with people on the call today?
Oh, absolutely. I think I sent you the.
Yes, I will send those out after the call.
Perfect. And it is a little larger of a file, so I would suggest you try to compress it in a way, and you may actually need to put it out on like Google or something and send a link.
Perfect. I will do that.
Right. So
absolutely.
No problem sharing it. And both Matt and I, if you want to email Matt, you want to email me, I'm thecoxon@hotmail.com. Pretty easy to remember. Happy to answer any questions that I can.
Wonderful. So please keep those questions coming in the chat if you have additional ones. But my hope is now to pivot a little bit to continue the conversation in a little bit smaller groups. We are going to take this opportunity to break out into some small breakout groups for some discussion amongst yourself about what your clubs are each doing. And just with that focus on safety. Feel free to pass and just be a listener today if that suits you better at this time. We don't have an abundance of time. However, we will spend 10 minutes in the breakout room and come back and just wrap up for the final couple minutes. They are randomly assigned rooms, so please unmute yourself when you arrive and don't hold back sharing with others in your group. However, please be mindful to give everyone an opportunity to participate. And take time to connect, share, and learn. All right, and you don't need to touch anything. It automatically does this for you, so you don't need to be don't need to worry. We will bring you back as well. All right, so I'll be popping in and out of the rooms just to make sure conversation's going all right, but please, I hope that this is beneficial. All right, you should be arriving in your room shortly. Welcome back, everyone, as you start popping back up. If there was something that you feel like should be shared with the entire group, please go ahead and type it in the comment section, just while everyone starts coming back. Welcome back. As everyone's being pulled back into the main room, we'll have everyone pop up shortly. If you have anything that was of especially important, just light bulb moment in your group, please feel free to type it in the chat section. We only have a couple minutes here to wrap up, but if there's anything you'd like to share with the entire group, feel free to type it in that chat function. Excellent. The difference between tidal and river situations for safety launches versus lake rowing, and for launches that are not stored on the water. Safety monitors on the water as a discussion point. Excellent. So I think everyone, we're missing a few. Maybe some people are lost in the transition back, but or maybe they've had to go. Sanitizing shoes and boats. Excellent. The board is sort of a test group for protocols. So testing out things with the board or staff. Question that was proposed: what are people doing with staffing of coaching? All right, so I do encourage you to continue to type in that chat function. Rachel, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up here in the next 2 minutes?
Right. Looking at Steve's question and also Podrick about sanitizing and everything. Yeah, sanitizing shoes, for instance, can be a bit difficult, but like I say, for the, we have private boats right now, right? But some of them are using private or club oars. So you're not really, if you're loaning your boat to somebody else, because we are allowing you to loan your private equipment to someone else, we prefer that you bring those sanitizer wipes, right, with you in the boat, so that you can basically wipe down something if you're going to go ahead and loan it to another person. But I do think that sanitizing shoes can be a bit difficult. And then wow, lots of questions are coming in. I got a little self-distracted there. You know, staffing and everything and boat monitoring, those are all work in process, right? Like I say, some are allowing coaches on, no problem. Others are not. One, because you can't get your equipment on the water without help. You know, like if your launches are stored off the water and you got to get it back in, how can you social distance to get those boats back in and off, and, you know, and things like that. Somebody had a question about PPP. What is that question again? Unmute yourself and ask that. Because
I think the PPP question was just they're using the funding to provide safety monitors. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, as long as they're, yes, exactly. Just make sure that's a qualified expense. Sorry, that's my CPA hat just came on. And then the restriction on youth, that one was already asked. Can you speak to the boathouse liability issues? You know, liability is really, that is a tricky, slippery slope subject. The bottom line is that what does your insurance coverage have on it? So I do not believe that U.S. Rowing's insurance coverage, which a lot of us have, right, because we're all organized members, I do not believe that they have the rider on that says if there should be a pandemic, right, and something happens, we will cover that. Because that type of coverage is usually additional. It's not part of general insurance. Much like if you're live in the Pacific Northwest and you own a home, if we have an earthquake and your home slides down the hill, if you have not added the earthquake rider, that's not going to be covered, right? So that you have to, you know, flood riders, right? Flooding is not, especially in certain parts of Washington, is not covered under insurance. So you got to add and pay for those types of riders. So you got to ask your question. If you're concerned about liability, the fact that that's even a question, right, might say you need to rethink whether you should open up or not. But you really do need to check to figure out what you are and are not covered for. And chances are your current insurance does not carry the rider should someone get ill due to this pandemic.
All right. Well, we are currently out of time, so I just want to say thank you so much to everybody. Thank you to Rachel and Matt and everybody that you know, contributed to the various conversations today. Hopefully you found some value in the information shared and connections made during this past hour. Please stay connected. We are starting to see the light of some things starting to return slowly. We will eventually get there, and, you know, though we don't know where the finish line is, and it feels like we've been in that third 500 for a very long time. It will come. Just don't rush it, right? So thank you to each and every one of you for making the sport what it is. We will be hosting another call in 2 weeks' time. Please look for a follow-up email later today that will include the slides from today as well as information for the next call. And with that, thanks again, and I hope everyone stays healthy. All right, we hope to see you in a couple more weeks. Thank you all.